And welcome into In Depth with Fox Carolina Sports, where we go in depth with local coaches and athletes that have reached the pinnacles of their profession. And this might be our most timely interview of this series. Hey there, I'm Aaron Chuslock, and we are joined by a guy who has made quite the name for himself over the past decade in college basketball, head coach of the Appalachian State Mountaineers, Dustin Kerns. And, Coach, first of all, how you doing? I'm sure life's feeling pretty good right now.
Aaron, it's good to see you. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just very humbled by all this. It's the work by a lot of people. I'm just really happy for our players and coaching staff and App State Nation.
Well, we had to get you on. We had to move some stuff around to make sure we could get you on this week. So I appreciate you making some time for us. For those that haven't been paying attention, Coach Kerns is coming off quite the run. Appalachian State had an up and down year this year, as most college basketball teams did. And when you look at the parity across the sport, it's pretty easy to see that this season is really unlike any other. But you win the Sun Belt Conference tournament title, and you come into the game not as hot as you would like to, or come into the tournament not as hot as you'd like to be. Truly, to make the dance, you'd have to win 4 straight games in 4 straight days. You do just that, and you knock off a Georgia State team, a 2-time defending conference tournament champion, who beat you by 14 late in February. You're really the first Cinderella story of the 2021 season. How has the whirlwind been since the win on Monday night?
Well, it's March Madness. That's why people like it. It's unpredictable. This year is unpredictable in so many ways. We were 12-5, and then we had a 2-week pause, and then the Sun Belt's a very competitive conference. It's been a whirlwind. I'm still trying to get back to even on my text messages. I'm in the 600s or 700s or so. I'm still getting back to people, but we had a parade here in town. A lot of students, and so that's just been very rewarding for our players. And we're still COVID testing. I mean, none of that stuff's really, certainly changed, but just very happy for our staff and players in our university.
Under 500 in conference, you've lost 6 of your past 7 to end the regular season. What is the mindset when you go talk to your team, knowing your backs are against the wall? Obviously, you knew you had the talent to pull this off, but to actually go out and win, and then, you go into the conference tournament championship, I'm sure, the pressure is even more at that point because you got that far. What do you tell your team when you go into a game like that?
I talked to our team before we left, and I think that I talked to them about we can win it. And I really believed it. And so maybe they believed me when I was talking to them. But I said, to win it, you've got to win game 1. You can't worry about winning the championship. We got to just focus in on Little Rock and take one day at a time. And once we got Little Rock, I thought we got confident. And then we got Texas State. We got even more confident. And I think it helped. We were playing new teams. Going into the tournament, we'd only played 4 Sun Belt teams. And so playing new teams, because we played everybody 4 times, sometimes playing new teams in Coastal Carolina. And then once you get to Monday night, even though we had played Georgia State 3 times, we'd already beaten them twice. But once you get to Monday night, the adrenaline's pumping, you got to play. And I felt good about it because I just thought that we had some guys in our team program that just were not going to let us lose.
It's been 21 years since App State has made the NCAA tournament. I'm not sure that going into it you thought this year would be the year. I think everyone was just trying to get the amount of games in that you could possibly get and see where you end up at the end of the season. But given all the hurdles that you guys have had to go through, and really everyone in college basketball, both on and off the court, how gratifying is this, and does it even add a little bit more to it because there was just so much that went into getting this season played?
Aaron, absolutely. I think that, back in August when we got together, I talked to our team about making a choice. We can either embrace this year or we can waste it. And I said, so let's make a choice, because some people are just going to waste it. Some people are going to complain about all the protocols and all the stuff we got to do, and or we can embrace it. And I said, at some point down the road, the players and coaches that go through this season, it's going to be like a badge of honor. Wow, one day I went through that season. Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember that season. Like we played games during that and traveled, and I really think it'll be that way. I think that we'll look back on this year, it'll be like a badge of honor.
So now you're in the dance. You don't know who you're going to play until Sunday. What do you do with your team? Obviously, you celebrate for a little while, but know that you still got more games to play, and hopefully a few of them. What's the mindset for the rest of this week? How do you prepare for a nameless and faceless opponent?
You know what you do, you enjoy it. Yeah, I've talked to our team about it. This is such a unique experience and opportunity that we've got to enjoy it. And so we gave them a couple of days off. We're going to get back to practicing tomorrow. I just told them watch some basketball and just enjoy it. And but I also told them that, hey, we're not just going to be happy to be a part of the tournament. There's more Cinderella stories out there, and maybe we can keep it going, but just enjoy the moment, and so that's kind of what we're doing with us playing the week before Selection Sunday. It gives us an opportunity to enjoy it, and so we're going to do that.
When you think about, I'm not sure how much time you've had to sit back and really reflect on what the past calendar year has been, but you get to App State in the 2019-2020 season. You take a team that was 11-21, immediately turn it around and win 18 games, but then the pandemic hits and sports stop, the world stops. Was that more trying, given that you had just gone into a new program, you had just kind of gotten the ball rolling there in Boone? And, obviously everyone's had to adjust. We're doing this via Zoom when we usually would be sitting across table from each other. I'm just curious, from your perspective, being so fresh into a new environment, what that's been like for you, and is there a way you can put the entire, last 365 into perspective for us?
Yeah, certainly I think perspective and challenging come to mind. I think that, and then also we all did it. We didn't experience anything that UCLA or Kentucky. We all went through this. I think it was difficult in the recruiting because last spring, you're trying to make some critical signs, and there was some. You didn't really get the. We signed, I think, 4 players we'd never met in person or seen in play in person. That's a 30-year roster, and so. But it gave me perspective too about what's really important, and that the relationships and the game and the practices and all that stuff that sometimes our players maybe don't appreciate. I told them, I said, you're going to appreciate going to class, now. But, I think that, and also it gave me a chance to really be at home with my family. I got 2 little kids and wife, where normally it's impossible to do this job at home. But we were able to do it from home and get a chance to teach my daughter how to ride a bike. And, those are things that I'll look back on and really appreciate from COVID and the shutdown, because, being there, my son's swim lessons at 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, normally I would miss that, and so, there was some good and bad, but certainly part of it.
I'm curious, when the entire point of In Depth with Fox Carolina Sports is to catch up with folks who've made local impacts and kind of get a sense of their path to where they are now. And I kind of want to start towards the beginning with you. Obviously, we all know you from your time at Wofford and Presbyterian, but you're a Clemson grad, and you were a student assistant with the Tigers in the early 2000s. Obviously, those were not the best years for Clemson basketball, but I'm curious what you learned during that time in Clemson, and were there any points there that have helped you become the coach you are today?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I had no idea what I wanted to coach, but I didn't know what really coaching was. And fortunate, I mean, Larry Shyatt, Matthew Driscoll was the head coach now at North Florida, was there an assistant, late Bobby Hussey. Just had some incredible mentors that, taught me a lot during that time when I didn't really know what coaching is. And I learned from them the relationship part of it. I learned from them the strive to always get better, and be an ongoing learner. But I met my wife at Clemson. I mean, our daughter was, we were married in Clemson. My daughter was baptized in Clemson. Like that was a special place, more than basketball, but, certainly I really learned kind of what coaching's all about there. Certainly, anytime you meet your wife there and all that stuff, that's that's been certainly it was a special time.
Head over to Tennessee Tech to start your coaching career, and you end up at Wofford. And this is, the late 2000s, and this isn't quite the year in, year out Wofford winners that we're used to seeing. But you're coaching under Mike Young. What did you learn from Coach Young, and how impactful has he been to your coaching trajectory?
Oh, tremendously. After the Sun Belt Championship, on the bus back, I called my parents. And then I called Mike Young, and he's an incredible coach, an incredible person. Spent 7 years with him, but I mean, we don't have time on this interview to talk about what I learned from him. But he's just an incredible human being, and an incredible basketball coach. The guy can coach some ball now, and but he's been an incredible mentor. And certainly so happy for him and his success at Virginia Tech. But I knew that was going to happen.
Your first stint of Wofford ends. You head over to Santa Clara, and you had some down teams there, but you had some really good teams there as well. Notably, the 2010-2011 season, Santa Clara goes 24-14. 2012-2013, it was 26-12. Is that where you'd say you grew the most as a coach, seeing how that program really escalated those certain years, how to handle a big-time winner?
Yeah, but I think I started learning my first stint at Wofford. We were building. Wofford had just went Division I and kind of coming in with Coach Young early. I had to go to Santa Clara at Wofford. I was making $5,000, on a meal plan in Burwell, and so But I thought at Wofford we were kind of building, and then certainly a few years later it happened. But at Santa Clara, went out there, and Santa Clara had been a program which was great tradition and had one winning season in the last 6 before we got there. So helped building that thing and and then we saw some, really some success there. And but I think it was a combination of both, because I felt like I was a part of both of those programs.
You go back to Wofford, and this, the first few teams there, that's really kind of my favorite teams that I covered with the Terriers. The 2013, you get back-to-back SoCon titles, tournament appearances, guys like Carl Cochran, Lee Skinner, Cam Jackson, Eric Garcia, just gritty teams that did it the right way. And I can remember in 2015, before the SoCon championship, we were scheduled to interview Coach Young in our 4:00 newscast. He had something come up, and you get sent down there, and that was the first time I think I had a one-on-one interview with you. And, it's funny because I can remember thinking at that point, I knew you were an assistant coach, but I never really talked to you. After the interview, I was going, that guy's going to be a heck of a head coach someday. And I knew it right then and there. Like there's too much knowledge. He's too personable. And here you are now. But I'm curious, the second stint at Wofford, that team in particular that went back to back in the SoCon, how gratifying was that, given your first stint there, to see the success that they then had? And obviously, all those guys I just mentioned and more, all really good guys, and it's good to see them have success as well.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of those players. I've texted with a lot of them the last few days. Skinner and Garcia and I even got one from Fletcher and I've got a lot of those guys. And I'll tell you, go back to that interview. So I remember sitting there and Coach Young calls me at like 3:56 and says, "Hey, I didn't know about this. They didn't tell the sports information didn't tell me. I'm not even dressed. I just got out of the shower. I need you to go downstairs right now and do this interview." And I wasn't even really dressed. And so I said, but as an assistant, you can't say, "Hey, coach, I can't do it either." And so I got dressed in like a minute. And he said, "It's live. You got to go now. You got to go now." And so I'm running down there to get with you. It's about that interview. But I definitely, Aaron, remember that. And because I was nervous, because a lot of times you don't do live interviews. And I was like, "Oh, this is live. Ooh, okay." And but I've followed your career and everything since then, and certainly you're doing great things there at Fox Carolina. But those teams at Wofford were just incredibly tough, and they were the best team. I think not the most talented team in the league at that time, but the best team. And I think that's what we focused on here was just I really don't think we had the most talent in the Sun Belt. But I think we had the best team, a very connected group. Sometimes when you go through adversity and challenges, it brings you closer. But we do have a really, really good team, and the team plays for one another.
Well, you knocked the interview out of the park, so shows that you had it there right then and there. You head over to Presbyterian, and this is a common theme we're starting to see with you, Coach Kerns. The team had never had a winning season at Division I, and right off the bat, I think they were in Division I for over a decade then. So that was
I think it was like 13, 14 years.
So, I mean, that's a long run. You're taking over a program without high expectations. In the second season, you lead them to a 20-16 mark. I can remember that team very well. Just a few years ago, shot the three incredibly well. A very short stint in Clinton, but, man, what an impact you made. Did that give you the confidence that, you know what, I can do this my own way. I can do this with my own program. I've been in these winning programs. I've seen how these other guys do it. But when you go and do it and the success comes to fruition, that's got to be a confidence builder right then and there.
Yeah, and I love Presbyterian. They gave me my start. Bob Staten, the former president there, hired me. He was the first one to believe in me. I'd interviewed for other Division I jobs, but didn't get them, and that's part of it, right? But Bob Staten believed in me, and I'm forever a blue hose because of that. And but I had several people in college coaching tell me, "Don't take that job. It's a graveyard for coaches. You can't win there, blah, blah." I said, no, we can win there. I'm going to bet on myself. I believe in what we're going to do. We're going to win there. I didn't, just plant your feet, bloom when you're planted. But we won 20 in year two. I didn't expect that. And then Appalachian State calls, and I'm from around this area. I think it's a wonderful place here. Love it. I was excited, and just could not say no to this opportunity, here. But I'm forever a blue hose. Wonderful people there. It's a wonderful school, and they'll be back.
When you look back at the coaching career so far, and then the success you're now having at Appalachian State, I know that you guys are very goal oriented. It's always on to the next. Let's not take a ton of time to enjoy this. You mentioned you guys are going to enjoy that win on Monday, but have you personally taken any time to enjoy this road that you're starting to make a name for yourself on a national level very quickly as well?
Well, it's not about me. I'm just a small part of it. I got a great coaching staff. I got a great administration. We got a great family. Like it takes a lot of people. Um, I don't. This is it's not about me. And so this is about App State. It's about our program. I'm really happy for our players, and I want them to enjoy it. I'm really happy for our coaches. This is a couple of our coaches' first NCAA tournament, so I'm just so happy for them that they get to experience the greatest show on earth. But I'll have a chance to enjoy it at some point. I'm trying to enjoy it now. I really am. Cool thing. My dad didn't come to the tournament, but my parents live in Kingsport, Tennessee. My dad drove over yesterday when I got back and came to the celebration. And then me and him went to the house. I had to do a couple interviews and stuff, but I had 500 unread texts. I'm not going to get to all of them. I just set the phone down. Me and him watched the game together, again, and that's something I'll never forget. And, so I am trying to enjoy it, and we're going to, but there'll be a moment down the road where we'll really, enjoy it. But, now it's about, maintaining our focus and doing what we need to do here.
All right, now I'm going to ask you a couple questions just off the top of my head. I'm curious with those Wofford teams, given the success that they had immediately after you left at Presbyterian and you took over your own program, you're certainly where you are now. There's no way you're looking back at that move and regret. Was there a little piece of you that saw them win 30 games and the success that Fletcher McGee and Storm Murphy and all those guys had the next 2 years after you left? Was there a little piece of you was like, man, I wish I could be experiencing that right now? Because you laid so much of the groundwork to have that success.
Yes and no. I did feel a part of it because Mike Young made me feel a part of it. And, when I was the head coach at Presbyterian, we played upstate. Fletcher and some guys came over to the game. And so I was so happy for those guys. And, but Mike Young's the common denominator. That's the guy that's the straw that stirs the drink. But I was happy. I was happy being the head coach at Presbyterian. But I was so happy for Wofford and that success. I was enjoying it just as much as them. And so I did feel a part of it. And, the funniest thing about it is my daughter always kept telling me, she's like, you just really missed out on that brand new office in the, indoor stadium, and I'm like, honey, I don't coach for an office. And so but she just kept saying, because I was there when the whole thing was the arena was being built. And I was in a lot of meetings with Richard Johnson and those people, so I did feel a part of it. But I was just so happy for Fletcher McGee, so happy for him and his dad, Jerry, when I saw those two hugging after the SoCon championship. I got just as much as seeing that picture. And I remember pausing the TV and screenshotting that on ESPN and sending it to Jerry McGee, Fletcher's dad, and I said, I've been waiting for this picture for 5 years. And so I enjoyed it just as much as those guys and the coach at Giltner and all those guys that I was worked with and coached with there. But I say yes and no because I did feel like I was a part of it and I did enjoy it just as much for them. But I was also very happy being the head coach at Presbyterian.
Obviously, and you say Coach Young made you feel a part of it. You certainly were a part of all that success. And making them the program that they are. Presbyterian reaches new heights under you, and now you're taking App State to a new level. What are you going to tell your team when you get back together with them tomorrow? As obviously you're going to have a few days of practice here where you're just kind of trying to get better yourselves and prepare for the unknown opponent that you're going to end up playing next week. But what's the message you're going to tell them to get locked back in?
That we're not just happy to be a part of it, that we're going to play in there, that we're going to play to win, that we're not going to just, oh, well, we made it. The journey's not over. And so let's go create more memories, and let's keep it going. But let's just not play and act like, well, we made it, so we're happy to be a part of it. No, let's. There's always some more Cinderella stories and more memories to be made, and let's go do it.
And perhaps the parity in college basketball this year certainly goes into your favor, because I think this year is going to be as much of a crapshoot as anybody has ever seen. Before I let you go, and again, I do appreciate you making some time for us, because we have a lot of folks here in the upstate that certainly remember you fondly, and we're very happy to see the success that you've had at App State so quickly. And the cherry on top on Monday night, taking the Mountaineers to the dance. Again, first time in over 2 decades. But there are going to be some folks watching this or listening to this, however they get their podcast, that, perhaps there's a kid out there that wants to go into coaching. And they're not quite sure where to go from here. How do you prepare yourself? All that stuff. It's such a competitive field to get into. And, you mentioned the $5,000 earlier in the interview. There's a lot of rungs of the ladder you've got to climb. You got turned down for head coaching jobs. So many chances to be discouraged. But for the select few that persevere and have success, the reward, we're seeing it right now with you in Boone, North Carolina. What would you say to those folks that are listening to it and maybe have aspirations of trying to walk your path?
I'll say a few things. One, it's a labor of love. And so I was 27 before I made more than $5,000 or had insurance. And so, but I didn't care. I was the happiest guy in the world. I was coaching for the right reasons. Some guys coach for the wrong reasons, and those are the guys that I think phase out. The next thing I would say is, if you can see yourself doing anything else in life, do it. If you can't see yourself doing anything else in life, stick with coaching, because it's not for everyone. It's moments of joy. There's moments of misery, but you've got to embrace the journey. You've got to be willing to start at the bottom. It's one of the most competitive professions in the world, because the amount of people wanting to get in grows, the amount of positions stay the same. And so there's more and more former players getting in every year. And it's also a profession where 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. You can get into it a lot of different ways. You can just go from being a former player or an MBA. You can go from a junior college. You can go from high school. You can go, there's AAU. There's a lot of different ways. And so you've got to just understand that there's going to be challenges. It's going to be ultra competitive. But at the end of the day, if you're about it for the right reasons, and if you get into I coach because coach has had a great influence on my life. And so I want to impact other people. So I feel like I coach for the right reasons. I love the relationships. The former players that I've heard from in the last 72 hours, that means much more to me. I enjoy getting those more than, some NBA guy texting me. Is like, that means the world to me. When I was literally, before I got on with you, I was just texting with a guy I coached 1 year at Presbyterian. I got in, he was going to be a senior. He's in DC right now. I was texting with him, and he was telling me how happy he was. And like that stuff, if impacting people, getting a letter in the mail inviting you to a wedding of your former players, which I've got three coming up this summer. That's why I do it. And I think that if you are in it for that reason, to try to really impact people, and because you enjoy competition, then you'll have longevity. But if you're trying to get into coaching for the wrong reasons, you're not going to last and you're not going to enjoy it. And that would be my answer to that.
Dustin Kerns, one of the very best to come out of the upstate, and certainly the success is starting to round into form now. On the way to the NCAA tournament, the Sun Belt tournament champion, App State Mountaineers. Coach, again, thank you so much for the time. We will be watching closely as you start your next journey next week, and certainly wishing you the very best of luck as you start your trip in the dance.
Aaron, great to have you on. Big fan of your show. I've seen it on Facebook, and congrats to all your success as well. Thanks for having me on. Go Mountaineers, take the stairs.
That's the wrap for this week's In Depth with Fox Carolina Sports. Be sure to catch up with Dustin Kerns when you watch him on the big screen coming up next week. Not sure who they'll play until Selection Sunday. And we'll have another great episode of In Depth with Fox Carolina Sports coming up for you next week. Thank you for joining us, and have a great weekend.